Beautiful humans. This has been a really busy time for me. And I have decided to give myself some rest. And in the spirit of celebrating the importance and the beauty of rest, I am inviting you to re listen if you've heard it before, because repetition is the mother of learning, or to enjoy for the first time a prior episode about rest. I hope you enjoy. Beautiful humans, I have a confession. I love downtime, about having downtime, and I feel even more guilty about wanting downtime and enjoying it when I get it. Very specifically from the United States of America, brought up in the 20th and 21st centuries. And I gotta tell you, if there's anything that Americans are taught from the time we open our eyes, is that we are meant to be doing something. You should always be doing something. And I will have gone from one job to another job, checked off a to-do list the length of my arm, and I'll sit down for a moment and I'll be like, I feel like I should be doing something. Raise your hand if you can relate. My retired friend is like, nah, fam, I got over that. And I've unwound that onion. That's not the right phrase, but I've been peeling away at that. But it's work for me. It is work for me to acknowledge that human beings need rest, that includes me, but even more so, that I like it, I choose it, and I prefer downtime and resting to many other activities. That being said, my schedule, my calendar is crammed. I do suffer from the busy disease, like most people I know, but there are times when I choose chilling out over hanging out. And most of my friends and companions and associates are understanding of that. And there's just this wee bit of guilt that I have when I make that choice. So I share this with you for two reasons. One is as a gentle reminder that this podcast is about me being your guide on the side, not your guru at the front of the room. I don't claim to have any sort of superior position or esoteric knowledge or have finished my work. I am a work in progress, just like you. And I've done a lot of work on myself, so there may be some areas in which I can offer you insights and resources that are helpful to you. And I am always growing. It's one of my favorite things to do, is to learn and to grow and to change and to blossom and to discover those things that I really could benefit from making adjustments. I also like to So I wanted to share with you the struggle that I have with, I feel guilty because I'm just sitting here hanging out with my kid. I also feel guilty when I'm not hanging out with my kid. Being a mother in current American society is a trap. But I wanted to share this with you so that I could lead into, so distracting. I hope you're not distracted. Settle down, little guy. Okay, he chose the couch. I wanted to share this with you in order to lead into the burnout book that I shared with you a few episodes. Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. It's by the Nagoski sisters, Nagoski. So it's a great book. It's chock full of anecdotes and research and things that are helpful. But as I was struggling with my choices yesterday, I taught a class yesterday and did a couple of other 2-3 things. And then I chose not to do any more work for the day. Oh, the horror. I had hours where I didn't do something, didn't do something productive. So I wanted to share something from the Nagoski sisters book, the Burnout book, that addresses that, because maybe you too are continuing to pluck this thread, to peel this onion, to unwind from this human doing that we've taken on in most of our cultures. That's one of the things that Americans have exported. Japanese have a head start on that one. I believe it's Japan where they actually have a word for working yourself to death. I remember reading somewhere that in China, the average workday is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and anything 6 days a week, and anything less than that, you're considered lazy. I don't know. You can fact check me on that one. But this idea that humans are meant to work all the time. And if you're not being productive, if you're not producing, if you're not earning, then you are wasting your time is really detrimental to our overall health and well-being. So this book, the Burnout book, is written in the context of women, Western women. I think women from other cultures will also relate to this. And I think men and non-binary people or gender fluid people will also relate to this, because it is a construct that I think has just wormed its way into a lot of our lives. So this is from a section called An Invisible Workplace. So one of the concepts in the Burnout book is that women are socialized to be human givers. There's a lot in the Christian culture as well, and in the other Judaic religions, the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, that your whole purpose in life is to give to other people. That is a whole and total function for you being on this planet. There's a certain kind of interpretation of those religions that leads us there. So they talk about the invisible workplace and how sleep is a total miracle, right? It leads us to healing. It leads us to transform the damage done to our bodies. Let's just accept that sleep is an important part of our biological construct as human beings. And they say, yet moral judgment about sleep is built into the cultural history of the West. Medieval theologians believed humans' need for sleep was a divine punishment for the fall of man and a daily reminder to mankind of their sinfulness, weakness, and imperfection. Let that sink in for a minute. Sleep is proof that you are sinful, weak, and imperfect, and it's reminding you of what a worm you are. America's puritanical forebears warned, incorrectly, that immoderate sleep could cause everything from seizures to infertility to poverty. So imagine that. They're telling you that sleeping is going to make you unhealthy. It's going to make you infertile. Medical science has told us the exact opposite. The ills of not enough sleep are well known and well documented at this juncture. By the 1830s, medical journals were saying that more than 4 hours of sleep was an intemperance. Sloth, the sin of sloth, not the cute little animals, or as some people say, sloth. The immorality of adequate sleep has changed somewhat over the last 50 years. These days, the message is not so much that we don't need sleep, but that if a person has time to sleep, they're doing something wrong. They're not working hard enough. We've made a virtue of being exhausted, of denying ourselves rest. This idea is so embedded in culture that Emily, one of the authors, has lost count of the number of women who tell her they feel guilty about sleeping. Has anyone ever heard the phrase, you can rest when you're dead? We have come to believe that if you have time to sleep, that you're not working hard enough. You're not killing the game. You're not doing enough. You're not making enough. You're not enough of a mogul. You're not enough. Women feel guilty about sleeping. I don't think it's just women. I know so many people in general who think, incorrectly I might add, that you can train your body to function on less sleep. Sorry, unless you're one of those genetically predisposed people to live on, 6 hours of sleep or less. And mind you, that is a very small percentage of the population. You cannot train your body to be good on less sleep. What you are doing is training yourself to stop noticing your deficits. You're training yourself to ignore your exhaustion. You're training yourself to get used to your lack of physical dexterity. You're training yourself to get used to being a little shorter tempered. You're just training yourself to accept your deficits. So, women feel guilty about sleeping. Men do too. People, we feel guilty about sleeping because we believe that if you have time to sleep, you are doing something wrong. You're not working hard enough. So, how come, this is from the book now again, how come, Emily asked one group, you may as well feel guilty about breathing. It's necessary. So why the guilt over sleep? It's selfish, a woman answered. When you're asleep, you're only helping yourself. That woman was 18 years old and already committed human giver. So we've been taught that being asleep is selfish because you're only helping yourself. And then there's this whole other set of coaching and teaching and what's the word I'm looking for? This whole other side of business where people tell you how to make money in your sleep. We feel so guilty about sleeping. We feel so ashamed of sleeping. We feel like sleeping is such a waste of time that we need to set up a business that helps us make money in our sleep, because heaven forbid that a single second of your life is going by where you are not making money. And if a single second of your life goes by where you are not making money, well, you daggone better be in service of helping someone else. So you have two choices. You can be making money or you can be helping others. And if you're not doing one or both of those things, you're a big loser. Does that's like, ugh, that's horrifying. But I have to tell you, full confession, there is a part of me that resonates to that. Not my deep knowing as a soul. There's a part of my intuition and my deep knowing that's like, wants to scream, no, that's not right. That can't be right. But my socialization, the way in which my culture has brought me up, is that if every second of every day you better be doing something worthwhile, if you've got time to sit down and watch TV, you've got time to do sit-ups, while you're typing a report, you file your nails, like just always be multitasking, because any moment of a day where you're not producing, making money, or serving someone else is a moment wasted. We feel guilty about sleeping. We feel like we need to cram every second of our waking hours with doing something. I am blessed enough to have several people in my world who remind me that that is BS. One of the reasons I've been off social media lately is because everyone's posting their highlight reels, and it triggers in me this programming of maybe I should do that. Should is a bad word. Should is considered a cognitive distortion. What's a cognitive distortion? Cognitive distortions are different ways of thinking that have been identified in several therapies: cognitive behavioral therapy, rational emotive behavioral therapy, all the therapies, that there are certain ways of thinking that tend to cause suffering. Should and its friends, should not, must not, are cognitive distortions, because those are based on judgments which may or may not be based in any sort of fact, reality, or usefulness. One of the reasons I lean into acceptance and commitment therapy is that it uses the rule of thumb. That has a terrible, terrible basis. That phrase, the rule of thumb, look it up, you'll be horrified. But acceptance and commitment therapy uses the rubric, the paradigm that you want to look at usefulness. So should and should not are not entirely useful, because if you are caught up in a should, you create suffering, because if it's something you should do but you don't want to do and you do it anyway, you're suffering. If it's something you should do and you do it, I'm going to get lost in all the do's and don'ts there. But the idea is that you are caught up in, rather than being in the present moment and choosing what to do or not do based on alignment with your values, you are shoulding on yourself based on some set of rules which may or may not have been created by you, and which may or may not be in any way in service to you living a life that is meaningful to you. So this notion that every second of every day should be spent doing, it should be spent in productivity, it should be spent in making money, and or it should be spent in service to others. Pick your poison depending on your culture, meaning your country of origin, your religion, your family, all of that. There's this pressure to never rest. And I do have some examples in my life of people who are unapologetic about, yeah, I'm done for the day. I did my thing. I'm going to relax. I'm going to enjoy this nice meal. I'm going to put my feet up and I'm going to enjoy resting. And I love that because when I get caught up in the societal programming, which is not in alignment with my values, I got to use my tools. Got to use my tools to back up and go, nope, that's not real or true for me. One of my kiddos does that. Like, remind me that I'm allowed to relax. Mom, you're allowed to relax. Thank you. So here's a tool that can be helpful when you find a should. Oh, I shouldn't sleep because there's so many. It means I'm letting someone down somewhere. I could be cleaning my house so that, when my partner gets home from work, I don't know. I don't want to tell you your shoulds. You know them. You can use the Byron Katie work, the work. Is it true? Is it true that you should be working right now? If the answer is, well, yeah. Is it 100% incontrovertibly true that you should be working? The answer is no. Should according to what? According to whom? And the reality is, what you are doing is so much more real and true than what your mind says you should be doing. If you're sitting, you're sitting. If your brain's like, I should be standing up, that's from the past or the future. It's a judgment. It's not the reality of what is. And as Byron Katie says, when I fight with what is, I lose, but only 100% of the time. So if you're struggling with I should be serving I should be helping, I should be serving, I should be doing, if I have time to rest, then I'm letting someone down. I'm not taking care of something. I could be making more money. Whatever the terrorist in your brain is telling you, is it true? Is it 100% true? 100% true. Beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's what you should be doing. And if there's even the slightest bit of, well, no, spoiler alert, it's not 100% true. What happens to you when you believe the lie that you should be? How does that feel in your body? What does that do in your relationships? Does that create more joy for yourself and others? Does it make you a kinder person? Is that in alignment with your values? When you're shoulding on yourself according to being in what you say are your values or your true values? Could you choose the activity without the shoulding and the suffering? So what happens? And then can you think of a non-stressful reason to hold on to that belief? People sometimes struggle with their stuff. We're like, well, yeah, I need to hold on to it. Just hear the tone of voice you're talking to yourself with. Is that a peaceful thought? Your intuition, your guidance doesn't feel like, ugh! It's not grindy or forcey. Whenever you're using force on yourself, you're out of intuition. So can you think of a non-stressful reason to hold on to that thought that you've just figured out that belief that isn't 100% true? So then we're going to consider what else might be true, right? So for myself, I insert the Sedona method here. So we've determined that the should or should not, must or must not isn't 100% true. And when you believe it, it causes you suffering. So could you let that go? I'm not asking you to let it go. I'm saying, could you? Is there any realm of possibility where you could let that go? So will you? Will you let that go? When? And if you let that go, if there's any possibility that you could let that go, what other belief is could be as true or more true than whatever the should is? One real shortcut for that one is could. I could be reorganizing the garage right now. I don't have a garage. I could be reorganizing the garage right now. I could. Well, that's possible. You also could not. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. I should be organizing the garage right now. I should not be organizing the garage right now. How do you know? Because you're not. The reality is you're not. What else could be true? Organizing the garage could be a good activity for me right now. So could rest. I should get by on 4 hours of sleep. What else could be true? I could get by on 4 hours of sleep, but when I do, I hurt myself a lot because I'm clumsy. So maybe I could find another way to get enough rest that also includes doing the things that are important to me. You get the idea. Enough examples. It's okay to rest. It's okay to have downtime, and I'm thinking about, my friend Rose is a good example of someone who allows herself space in her calendar. It's okay to rest. You don't need to feel guilty about resting. Your body, you are a biological organism, and your body needs rest. And here, okay, we're gonna. I lost my Post-it note. Let me find it. How much rest is adequate? Science says 42%. That's the percentage of time your body and brain need you to spend resting. It's about 10 hours out of every 24. Beloved friends, beautiful humans, 42% resting. They go on. It's about 10 hours out of every 24. It doesn't have to be every day. It can average out over a week or a month or more, but yeah, that's much. That's ridiculous. I don't have that kind of time, you might protest. And remind you, we predicted you might feel that way at the start of the chapter. We're not saying you should take We're not saying you should take 40% of your time to rest. We're saying if you don't take the 42%, the 40% will take you. It will grab you by the face, shove you to the ground, put its foot on your chest, and declare itself the victor. You ever get sick after a real push? People often get sick because they're not getting enough rest. They're like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me. Yeah, you've been pushing yourself for the last 3 years. It's unsustainable. You hear often about celebrities going on tour and they collapse from exhaustion or dehydration. You can be vulnerable to that too. 42%. 42%. My beautiful person. So what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? You find it. You find it. You may have to give up some of those activities that don't really feed you. Cough, cough, scrolling, cough, cough. So, and it doesn't say sleeping. You don't need to spend 42% of your time sleeping. Mindfulness is restful. Meditation is restful. Anytime you are fully engaged in the present moment, that's a little bit of a form of rest. So if you are spending 8 hours a night sleeping, I invite you to maybe see if you can make that happen. If you spend 30 minutes in meditation, if you are mindful while you are eating, if you relax in some form or fashion, that could be restful for you. It doesn't mean that you need to start sleeping 40%, 42% of the day. But maybe start blocking out time for sleep. Maybe give yourself permission to let go of those things that really aren't serving you and that you're just using to fill your time because we think we're supposed to. Maybe just let that sink in for a second. What if? What if? What if you validated and valued yourself enough to get that 42% of rest over the course of every week? What if that's not only possible? What if that's desirable? Ariana Huffington did a book a while back. She talks about the value of sleep. What if you productivity addicts and giving addicts getting 42% of your life dedicated to rest would actually make the other time that you spend in doing so much more effective. And just whether or not it does or it doesn't, what if we just gave up this notion that we are human doings and allow ourselves to be human beings? And with that, thank you so much for listening. I adore you completely, and I hope you adore you. Because hear me now, believe me later, you are pretty darn fabulous. And right here, right now, and for all time, you are whole, you are perfect, you are complete, and you are worthy and deserving of all the good stuff. Until next time.